Welcome to another episode of the Cynical Writer. If you would like to support this channel, the best way to do that is to purchase my books, and I've left some links in the description section in case you're interested. Now, what is too many ideas syndrome? A lot of people really haven't even heard of this term. A lot of people think of writer's block, which tends to be a far more common problem among writers, but it's certainly not the only one. More often than not, I actually suffer from the opposite problem. I suffer from having too many ideas at the same time. I mean, I have so many ideas that my head is very fragmented. I have so many different ideas that are usually only half fleshed out. I mean, that's why my head is so busy and so noisy, and that's often why I have trouble sleeping, because I just never get a moment's rest in my head. And usually that's a sign, though, of a highly creative individual. If you struggle with too many ideas syndrome, that usually just means that you're a highly creative individual. But because of that, I usually have so many ideas that it's very difficult for me to choose just one idea to focus on. I mean, that's the main problem that I have. I mean, for example, for a few months, I was working on this story that I was writing by hand, and it was set in the 19th century. And I absolutely love stories that are set in the 19th century. But the problem is that my previous book that I worked on was also set in the 19th century, and because of that, I just didn't feel inspired because the stories were just too similar. I mean, I really should have chose a different topic from the outset, but because I chose to write the story by hand, I thought, okay, 19th century, mid-19th century, appropriate, but it just didn't work out. And lately, I've been typing another story on a typewriter, and sometimes I also work on the handwritten story, but for the most part, I'm focusing my energies on the typewriter story. And because of that, I've found that my creative energies have been revitalized, but I'm tempted sometimes to work on both stories at the same time, but that would be detrimental to my creativity if I tried that, because I would be stretching myself too thin, and I just don't have enough creative energy to work on two stories at the same time. But if you suffer from the problem of too many ideas syndrome, that will often happen. Some people, think that if they live forever, they would become really bored. They say that with life, they would say, if I lived 100 years or 500 years or 1,000 years, I would become so bored that I just wouldn't want to live. Well, if you have too many ideas syndrome, you're never bored because you constantly have ideas in your head. For example, I have an idea for a game show, a book about a game show that will take place in the either 1950s or 1970s. I haven't decided. And I have an idea for a fantasy story. I have an idea about a circus in the 1930s. I have an idea for another story, in the 19th century. I just have so many different ideas just going around in my head, and there's just not enough time to write them all. So no, I could probably spend several lifetimes at least writing books. I mean, I just have so many ideas, but there's so little time, so I am never bored. I mean, if you suffer from too many idea syndrome, you will never be bored, believe me. And that's why when some people say, oh, I'm bored, I mean, I don't understand that. I never, ever get bored. Now, sometimes if I'm in a situation where I can't be creative or I can't write, if I'm standing in line or something, then yeah, sometimes I can get a little bored. But if I'm free to do the things that I want to do, then no, I'm never bored. Now, sometimes I can get into a routine that becomes monotonous, and sometimes I need to shake things up. But that's not really the same as boredom. No, I'm never bored. I think that if you are truly creative, then you're never truly bored. And but too many idea syndrome, there's positive aspects of it and there's negative aspects of it, but it's definitely something that's not talked about enough. Writer's block is usually the main thing that people want to talk about, but to be perfectly honest, I think that too many idea syndrome may be a far more pervasive problem among writers, but they're just afraid to talk about it for whatever reason. Well, I hope you enjoyed my speech for today. Again, if you would like to support this channel, you can check out my books in the description section. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, goodbye.